I would advise all the candidates to be candid with what they write on their application form. Please don't bluff, because they'll see right through you, and they just finding out whether you are a genuine candidate or not. And I think it's better to be honest than to exaggerate your achievements or something. Think beyond CAT, because CAT is just an exam that it is just the first stage in your selection. So you have to ace it, but at the same time you have to work on yourself, your profile, so that you don't feel left out once you get into that competitive environment.
Hello everyone, welcome to Cracku interview series. Today we have with us Prachi. She has scored 98.52 percentile in CAT 2022 and she has received calls from some of the old IIMs and also many eminent non-IIMs. Now coming to her educational background, she is currently pursuing BTech from JSS Academy, Noida. And today she's with us to share her CAT preparation journey, and also she'll talk about her MBA college interview experiences. Alright, so hello Prachi, welcome to Cracku interview series, and firstly a big congratulations on cracking the CAT exam and receiving calls from many good B schools.
Thank you for having me here, and thanks for your well wishes. I really wanted to share my strategies with some fellow aspirants, and I hope you find it.
Sure, definitely. And so firstly, can you walk us through your MBA preparation journey, and when you started your whole journey, why did you want to pursue an MBA, and when exactly you started preparing for CAT?
Okay. So I was in second year of my college, and the COVID lockdown happened. So I had a lot of time to myself, and at the same time I was feeling really lost. That was when I heard that a senior of mine had cracked CAT 2020 with a stellar percentile of 99.8, and
Okay.
it was the first time someone in our university had achieved such a feat. And so that was my initial motivation for starting, preparing for CAT, because I was clearly not enjoying my major, and I was really looking for something to do, some path to take in life, and that is where
All
my
right.
motivation happened. And then I started researching about IIM admission processes, CAT exam, and stuff, and also what kind of work do the MBA grads do. So that was something I enjoyed, and I did a lot of internships, built my profile, so that just in case I go into an IIM and I don't end up being the worst profile there. So I
Okay.
focused on my CAS and everything, a whole round it. I tried to build a good profile, and yeah, that's
All right, that's wonderful. So you took inspiration from one of your college seniors and you decided to pursue an MBA. So when did you exactly start preparing for CAT, and so how did you plan your preparation? So yeah, so how many days for syllabus and then mocks and so on?
So I started my thorough preparations in the sixth semester of my college. That was around February 2022, and
Okay.
yeah, I purchased Cracku's daily target plus mock, and that was something that was kind of my best decision, because the daily targets were such bite-sized and proper mocks that would guide me through, walk me through the real thing, and that is something I really appreciate, because that was something I was not getting from any other coachings that I had. So Cracku daily targets helped me a lot during my initial days.
Brilliant. So okay, so you started your preparation by taking daily targets.
Yes, and assessing myself, that where do I lie, how much, like what is the gaps in my preparation. First of all, I took like I solved some previous year papers, and I realized that I had to work on myself a lot. And then I started taking daily targets. So I would score good in VARC, and
Okay.
for DILR and Quants, I would struggle, because the questions were good, genuinely good. So what I did, I tried to learn the concept videos, and go through a lot of YouTube videos as well, and solve the workbooks and standard books, and then yeah. But what helped me the best was to solve the mock, and then
Okay.
analyze the mock and back work my strategy.
Right, so you majorly focused on test taking, and based on your analysis, you watched those concepts or learned those concepts and worked on the weak areas. Amazing.
Because I had less time, the strategy worked best for me.
Right. Okay, and you said you started from Feb, right? Something around Feb.
Yeah, I started from Feb, but at the same time, whenever an NSEM or something major
Right.
project would show up, then I would have a
Take a break.
like,
Yeah.
time crunch. Yeah.
All right. Now coming, okay, you said DILR and Quant. You struggled initially with DILR and Quant. So how did you improve in these areas, and how did you ultimately achieve your target score in these two sections?
So for quants, it was not that I didn't know the concepts because I have had PCM and I'm also an engineer. So I knew what was the what was the concept applied behind those questions. I would understand the solutions immediately. But the problem was that within that time crunch, I was not able to think of like that, or maybe I would make some calculation error because I would be so nervous looking at the question. So for quants, I had to balance my accuracy with speed, but there was nothing that I had to work from the ground up because I knew the concepts. But
Basics. Yeah.
but for the DILR part, I didn't even know how to approach the question, so I had to work it from the ground up. I watched a lot of YouTube videos and practice from books.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and Geeks for Geeks puzzles are also a good place to
Okay.
for aptitude for DILR.
All right. Now, okay, so now coming to your mocks, number of mocks. So how many mocks did you take, and what was your mock analyzing strategy? So how did you experiment in the mocks and ultimately come up with your final exam strategy?
The very first mock I took was Dash Cat 1 in, I think I started around February. So took that mock in the initial days of my preparation, around March, I guess. And
Okay.
I had a very terrible percentile in that, around 85 or 87. So I realized what went wrong, and I thought that this is my baseline score. I have to go forward from this. Now I don't have to go I don't have to do worse than this. So after that, I analyzed that mock and realized what were my weakest topics, and there were a lot of them. So I then went back and analyzed the past year papers and figured out what was the topics that had the most weightage, as well as they were my weak parts, and then I improved on those, and then I started taking the other mock.
Okay. Okay, and also you're a fresher, right? You'll be graduating this year. So coming to your CAT preparation, like how did you manage time with your college acads? I think you must be having sem exams around that time, right? Around CAT, around November time. So how did you manage these both? And so was there any extra pressure on you? And how did you handle that?
Yeah, the semester seventh was really hectic, and I
Right.
also had some placement offers in my hand just in case things went south. So I also sat for the campus placements and converted two offers. They were not much, but
Okay.
they were from service-based companies. And then I also had to go through some major project presentations because we have final year project in BTech, and it
Oh,
spans through seventh and eighth semesters. So I also had to juggle that with my CAT preparation, and my ensigns were in December, right after CAT. So it was really hectic, and
right.
yeah, if I didn't have all this, maybe I could have gone up by one more percentile. Like I would have gone up to maybe 99.5. But
Right. Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
All right. So now that we've discussed about Quant and LRDI, so other major section is VARC. So how are you performing in VARC, and so how did you strategize your preparation and ultimately the exam?
So I have always been a good reader, and I have read a lot of books, and that reading was something that I really enjoyed doing during my free time. So
Okay.
I never struggled with VARC, and even in all the mocks, whatever I was scoring, major component of that would come from my VARC score.
All
So
right.
I decided that I should focus on VARC and make it the pillar of my strength, and that would be I decided to focus more on VARC, and eventually I ended up attempting all the questions in CAT 2022 because that is what
Wow.
worked for me,
Okay.
maximizing my attempts and minimizing my.
Right.
Right. So you maximized your score in VARC.
So, for my VARC strategy, I started reading A1 articles because I had heard from a lot of people that they are helpful, and also
Right.
it is a free source platform. So, uh, and they were really helpful. They also broadened my knowledge. And apart from that, I would attempt the CAT daily target for VARC every day. So I had attempted almost 80 to 90% of the daily targets that were assigned on VARC. And apart
Great.
from that, I did all the VARC sectionals of Cracku as well. That is how I like got my strategy that I have to attempt all the questions, because what people do is generally take 2 or 3 RCs that they're comfortable with, leave one entirely, and yeah, and then focus on VA. But
Right.
anything can happen on the D-Day, and you don't know if the RCs you have chosen are the right ones for you or not. So my strategy would be to just maximize my attempts,
Right.
because I had known because I had like mastered the art of guessing the right answer when it comes to the RC. And for the VA section, I would suggest do not skip the questions that have no negative marking, because they will really improve your score. And even if you lose, you're not losing marks.
Right, exactly. Yeah, now speaking of the D-Day, like you said, so how was your D-Day experience? Like, which slot was yours, and did it go according to plan? So how did you handle the exam on the D-Day?
So my slot was the third slot. It
Okay.
was from like I think 4:30 to
Right.
6:30
6:30.
evening. Yeah. So until 12, I was sitting at my home and I was solving
Okay.
the like previous year CAT questions. I think
Oh.
I didn't
Okay.
take the CAT 2021. I didn't take the CAT 2021 paper, maybe. So it was the slot third of CAT 2021 that I was solving. I had heard that it was a solid paper. It was the toughest of them all. So I
Okay.
decided to solve that as well. Uh,
Okay. So
and
on the exam day, you were
yeah,
solving that.
I was just testing my strategy,
Right.
attempt strategy. So, and that was the final litmus test for my testing my strategy, and
Right.
it went well. So I knew what exactly I had to attempt. I knew how I have to attempt VARC, DILR, and Quants questions separately. So for DILR, I had decided that if I see a DI set, I have to do it, and then I'll move to an LR set which has something like linear arrangements or
Right.
matrices. That was my like strength in DILR. So I had decided to attempt only my strengths in DILR, and for quants, I had decided to choose only the questions that I know full well, and not like divert myself to any solving any other question that I'm half sure of. And for
Correct.
BARC, it was just to maximize my.
Right.
So what
Attempting
happened
all
on the
questions.
D-Day, when I was attempting the DILR section, I saw a DI question, and it seemed easy, but it was not. But I started doing it anyway, and I thought that I would be done by it with it by like 10 minutes, but it took longer than that, and uh,
Okay.
and I had 15 minutes left, so I went to solve an LR set as well. And I thought I had done it correctly, but the thing happened is there were four questions associated with that LR set, and I had scored
Right.
+3 and minus, like I had scored uh, one was right and three were wrong. So it
Okay. So it balanced
so
out.
whatever
Okay.
I had scored in the DILR was entirely due to that one DI set that I had solved correctly. All the questions were correct. And even in the
Great.
comment section, I picked up only the questions that I was really sure of that I would do it. And I had no negatives in quant section as well. So that is what
Great.
saved me and like pushed my percentile. And for the VARC, I had 18 correct attempts and 6 wrong attempts. And
Brilliant. Yeah.
if I had not done all the questions, maybe my VARC percentile would have gone down, and maybe I wouldn't have scored 98.5. So,
Right.
and
So
even in the middle of the exam, I had a technical glitch. So
okay.
my computer stopped working for 2 straight minutes, and
Oh my. Okay.
I, I went
And
I went numb
okay.
actually. I was about to start the quant section, and then they allowed me to do like they allowed me to solve after, like they allowed me to stay in the exam hall after all the candidates have left, just to compensate for the time
Okay.
gap.
But
Yeah, but
so did this
yeah,
happen before, just before con started? I mean, end of LRBA section?
just before quant started. Yeah, and it was a very mixed feeling, and then I decided not to
Right.
attempt any further questions in that state, because that would negatively impact my. I kind of froze after everyone left the exam hall, because I thought, and the timer was quickly ticking, and I thought maybe I should stop here, maybe I should not do. And
Okay.
I think it's important to realize that when you should stop attempting things.
Right. Yeah, I think it actually worked for you, and yeah, ultimately you achieved a good score on the CAT. Now, okay, now let's move on to your interview, your whole PI process. So when did you start receiving the calls? What are all the B school calls you received, and how did you prepare for the personal interviews of those B schools?
I have calls from IIM Lucknow, which is for their PGP ABM course, and
Okay.
I have calls from IIM Kozhikode, Indore, all the CAP IIMs, SJMs from IIT Bombay, DMS IIT Delhi, and VGs from IIT Kharagpur. Apart from that, I also have a call from NITI Mumbai for PGDIM.
Right, great, wonderful. Yeah, now you can discuss about your PI prep.
Yeah.
So I started my PI prep from I think January, because that is
Okay.
where most of the calls were being rolled out. And for that, I started reading the newspapers and staying abreast with all the current affairs that happened, and keeping an eye on budget and
Okay.
yeah. And apart from that, I fine tune my SOPs because SOPs are really important. Most of the questions in the PI are centered around your SOPs, and the professors have your application form with them. They're constantly reading it. So I would advise all the candidates to be candid with what they write on their application form. Please don't bluff, because they'll see right through you, and they have
Right.
their way of finding out whether you are a genuine candidate or not. And I think it's better to be honest than to exaggerate your achievements or something. It's better to come off as a
Exactly. Yeah.
rather than being a liar.
That's right. Okay, so now coming to the interviews of these B schools that you have received the call. So how did the interviews go, and like was there any particular interview that actually was very stressful or that took you by surprise, and how did you handle such interviews?
I think most of my interviews were really well. My very first interview was an offline interview with IIM Kozhikode and
Okay.
VARC actually. It was very conversational, and the panelists were sweet. And I think I was lucky because the panel next to me was really grilling all the candidates. Uh, but it went very well for me. It was smooth, centered around my academics and UG major. But I think my IIM Indore experience was really remarkable, and I had got
Okay.
the toughest panel. And almost all the candidates in my panel said that they had a similar experience because the panel was really grilling. Uh, it was a it was a stress interview.
Yeah.
So I happened. It happened in ITC Delhi as well.
Okay.
ITC Dwarka. So what happened is I entered the room, and before I could even I was about to greet them, the professors.
Okay.
Before I could even open my mouth, the one professor seemed in a really bad mood. Maybe he was playing
Okay.
the bad song. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he said, "Good morning, sit down." It seemed as if he's really upset with me for some reason. And then, I was taken aback because this was the first time a stress interview was happening with me. The rest,
Right.
all of the interviews, all
But
of
fun. Went
the
well. Actually,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I sat and I wished them, of course. And then he started off by asking about green hydrogen. And
Okay.
since he had took me by the surprise, I couldn't even recover from that. And he asked about green hydrogen, but I couldn't
Okay.
recall what it was. Although I had
Okay.
studied about it, but I completely forgot about it. And I said, "Sir, I don't know the mechanism of this." And he was like, "It's okay. I'm not asking about the mechanism, but do you know what it is?" And I said, "Sorry, sir. The very first answer was wrong.
Okay.
I didn't know it."
Yeah. Yeah. I could.
And then he was like, "Do you know about renewable energy?" So I went ahead and said, "Yes, it was in my seventh semester." And then he went all in on photovoltaic cells, solar cells, solar panels actually.
Okay.
So yeah, so and I had read recently about it because it really was in my seventh semester, and I had studied all about it. So I started
Okay.
explaining all I could, I had in my head. I started pouring it out on a piece of paper, professionally drawing the he asked me to draw the diagram of a PV array. So I did that, and yeah, he didn't seem impressed. Then he started bombarding me with all the factual academic questions. He asked me the value of Planck's constant, and I don't think anybody could even think that it is also something that you should prepare for. And but I remembered it because the old knowledge counts. I think what you know, and
Right.
it shouldn't be changed in less than a week. So yeah,
Yeah. Right.
I remembered it and I told, and he was impressed. And then he went all in on all the he would ask me units of the randomest things possible, luminous intensity. It was a debate on whether it is lumen or candela, and
Okay.
then we settled for lumen. And he was like, "I don't think that's the right answer." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And I had also mentioned in my hobbies that I like to learn new languages, and
Okay.
it was so he saw that I had mentioned that I have a Spanish certification.
Okay.
So he asked me to say the Ohm's law, and I did. And then he said that you have to repeat this Ohm's law in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
And I was entirely taken aback. I said, "Sir, this is an elementary certification. I don't know the
Okay.
technical terms. You
Yeah.
can substitute the technical terms with English words." And then, yeah, yeah. So it was really stressful, and
Right. Right.
also then went into geography and
Okay.
everything. So they asked me the neighboring states of India. Uh, so I told, and then I also mentioned Afghanistan. Then he was
Okay.
like, "Why Afghanistan?" Then I said that they share an 80-kilometer long border, and
Okay.
he was. I don't know what he. I think he misheard it, and he heard that Afghanistan is 80 kilometers away from the Indian border, and he's like, for that reasons, you should also include Mongolia, since it is also very close to the Indian border. I said,
All
sir,
right.
it shares the border. Then
Right.
then he seemed somewhat convinced, and yeah, so it was a nerve wracking.
Yeah. Now I can understand how stressful it is. Like at every point you are questioned on something
I
unexpected.
think
Yeah.
it lasted around 30 to 35 minutes, and it was
Oh.
every candidate. Yeah. It was yeah, like they even asked me about since I had mentioned learning new languages as a hobby. They asked me about how many languages are spoken in India, and I knew that, fortunately. So I said it's over 1200 languages, and they're like, "Are you sure it's not dialects?" And I said, "There's not dialects, they're small languages that very few, like a small community speak." And yeah, and then they went into China. What about China? How linguistically diverse China is? And then I said I know only of Mandarin, and there are maybe
Mandarin
regional
can.
dialects
Yeah.
in, yeah,
Yeah.
8 to 9 provinces. And yeah, so it was really stressful actually. At every point, they asked me factual questions only.
Right. Yeah, a lot of factual questions and 35-minute long stressful interview.
That was when there were almost 12 candidates assigned on that panel. So, and they had to finish the process in 3 hours or so. And
Okay.
every candidate was almost interviewed for like 30 to 35 minutes. I was in the mid of my panel. I think I was the
Right.
sixth or seventh
Okay.
candidate. So
Okay.
still, it happened to me. I've heard of indoor PIs are very stressful in general, and they focus a lot on your academics and
Right.
your even your UG degree. So they will always have questions on that. It was I was lucky to have known like almost 80% of the questions, but yeah,
Questions. Right.
at 20% of the places I said I don't know.
Right.
Great, wonderful. Seems like you have performed it well. You managed it well through the interview. So let's hope for the best results. Now, finally, coming on to the final question, like what is that advice that you have for the future CAT aspirants, the MBA aspirants in general?
Uh, so my only advice would be that think beyond CAT, because CAT is just an exam that it is just the first stage in your selection.
Right.
So you have to ace it, but at the same time you have to work on yourself, your profile, so that you don't feel left out once you get into that competitive environment. There will be always a lot of people who are better than you, but at least try to be in the like top 50% of the batch, because that even that pays off in the top 15 institutes. So yeah, work on yourself, build a good profile, intern with a few companies, or preferably startups. Uh,
Right.
yeah, and also random knowledge pays off. That I have seen in my indoor interview, because whatever I had been preparing for current affairs and stuff, they asked me none of that.
Right.
I only relied on my random knowledge, whatever I had built up during the years, to answer those questions. And had I not inculcated a habit of reading and
Right.
learning stuff,
Exactly.
so I think I would have struggled in that interview and badly flunked it as well. So you never know in which direction an interview will go. Even if you have the best tell me about yourself prepared, because a lot of the times the direction an interview will take is due to this single question.
Right,
And
right.
that's where you set the hook for the interview to
Exactly.
work.
Yeah.
But in my Indore interview, they didn't ask me this question. They just
Okay.
asked me to summarize my academic background, and I
Right.
did. I told about my college and school, and that was it. They didn't ask this question. So then they went in the randomest possible direction,
Randomized questions.
everything.
Right.
And had I not, so random knowledge will pay off. Read things and learn things, and also work on yourself, build a good profile, and yeah, at the end of the day, give it all.
Right. Brilliant. So thank you so much, Prachi. Thank you so much for sharing us so many valuable insights on CAT and especially your personal interview experiences. I'm sure this definitely helps a lot of aspirants how to deal with stress interviews, particularly in the MBA interviews. And like, we really hope that you convert your Dream B school, and all the very best for your MBA.
Thank you very much.